Welcome to Esther and Friends.
Hello, everyone.
I am so super excited today because today we are in the sunny state of California. I am visiting my best friend, Rebecca Faith, and I am just so excited that she wanted to come and share a little bit of her life. She is a dramatic communicator, a life coach, a foodie. Can we all say amen?
Come
At least
on.
I will be. And she is a proud mom and an instant mom. So Rebecca, for people that don't know you,
Yes.
who is Rebecca Faith? And tell us a little bit about yourself,
Okay.
how you got to where you are today, and all those things that I said about you. But who would you say, who is Rebecca?
Well, that's a great question, and I've asked myself that many
Yeah.
times because you wear so many different hats that you
True.
sometimes aren't even sure who you are, or
That's a good
I'm
one.
lost in the busyness and all the doing of life, and I forget who I even am. But if I had to answer that question, I would say firstly that I was born in a small town, and so I have that sort of community family mentality,
Yes.
which of course in the kingdom of God is incredible, because you are part of a bigger picture. You're one of something greater.
Yes.
And so for me, that's a huge part of how I see myself is just a piece of this large eternal family. I also, became an instant mom and actually a grandmother before I had my own biological daughter, and that whole role in my life absolutely changed so much of who I am.
Yeah.
I sing, I coach, and so there's so many different things, but I would say the common thread through everything in my life is that I'm a source and a resource in the earth, and I always want my life, or that source or that resource,
Yes.
whatever it is, to be one that brings hope, a hope conduit, a life conduit. And so that's where I see myself today.
Wow, that is awesome. That is
Yeah.
awesome. So you touched a little bit about being an instant mom and a grandmother. That's like, who has heard of that? I've watched you on your journey, but for those that don't know and have gone through some of that,
Yeah.
through marriage, through blended families, like
Right.
how has your experience been, real life and, even before you had your own,
Yeah.
you started with that,
Yeah.
and they were not young.
Right.
So what was that journey? How did that look like?
I mean,
in a nutshell.
firstly,
I'm sure
yeah,
that's
it's
hard.
so many things to kind of draw from, especially now, being married for 10 years and
Yes.
being able to look back. If you
Yes.
asked me that question, 8 years ago,
Yes.
or even 5
Would have
years
been-
ago, it would have been a different answer.
Yes.
But today, look, I don't think it's ever easy, because you're walking into something that has a history.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I think when you start in a sort of a typical marriage, you're
Yes.
younger,
Yes.
typically, you're starting out, you're still discovering who you are, and so in all of your process, you're doing it together.
Yes.
When you come into a blended family, or you marry someone who already has children, so in this instance, I didn't, but he did.
Yes.
It's a challenge because they have a history, and there's things, we call it baggage that comes
Yeah.
with that. But to me, it's more than that. There's habits. There's a home life that you were not part of.
Yeah.
And your mark is not in that house or in that home or in that furniture or in their food choices. And so just practically speaking,
Yeah.
it's a huge adjustment. But I think that the thing that I clinged to through everything, especially with the kids, is not apologizing for who you are.
Wow.
It was hard.
Wow.
Because you're going into it and you're saying, okay, I'm the stepmom, and the stepmom has a sort of a stereotype.
Yes.
And you don't realize how much you even subscribe
Yeah.
to stereotypes.
Yeah.
And so it was like, I go into this expecting not to be embraced, and just certain things that you have to struggle through and deal with.
Yeah.
However, I found that when you're united with your spouse, like my husband,
Yes.
he loved them and he realized the hard time they were going through, but he didn't compromise in his leadership. In the most loving and understanding way.
Yes.
And that taught me a lot. And so I didn't come in with all these expectations, which is also a big thing. I didn't expect for them to embrace me or even love me, but I determined in myself, I'm not going to let that affect me.
And isn't that with any situation almost?
So many.
Because it is our expectations that we put on anything, and that's how we get disappointed.
For sure, and we don't communicate. I can't tell the kids, when they were 6, 8, 10, the smallest ones. And at that age, you can't, they don't even know what they're going through, all of those emotions. And so, when you just determine in yourself, no matter what the situation is, no matter how they receive me, I'm not going to change. My love is not going to change. My patience is not going to change. My behavior towards them is not going to change. And I feel like that gave me a head start in that relationship, and just knowing that love never fails. And it doesn't not fail because it changes you or gives me what I want in you. But love never fails because it keeps my heart from getting hard or bitter or angry or taking offense or being resentful. Love never fails because the one who gives that love, it keeps your heart. And that's what I found for me is there were moments, don't get me wrong.
Sure.
There's stories we could tell, but love never fails.
Hmm.
And if you can approach it, kind of from that attitude, then it helps you cope and deal with things.
So that's a little bit more of the struggles that come with it, but what were some of the joys and some of the pros almost like of being an instant mom, some of the positive things that were given back to you in all of this?
I think in the beginning there weren't many. That's what it felt like.
Wow. That's real.
But I think that as you kind of form a new family unit, that doesn't take away from they have a mother, so in my instance, so it doesn't take away from that, but just kind of getting confidence and in those individual relationships, that was huge for me. And just knowing that I mattered to them for who I was. It took me a while to believe it. To be honest. But they don't fake it. Kids don't fake it. And so, when they would make those cards, especially the homemade gifts or whatever, and they would do things that matter to me. So as they've grown up now, we kind of each have our own relationship, me and the kids. And when they do things or say things, that we can enjoy together, just that, they have something else with their dad. That is so unbelievably special to me. And I think even more so because it wasn't always that way.
And as I've watched you, what I saw very significant is that it needs time, and that's what you gave it for yourself.
You have to.
And for the kids, and not to put pressure at all, like you said about the expectations, because
it's hard.
It takes time.
It's hard.
It's not going to just
and love in its definition is long suffering. Is patient, is kind, and I think just applying all of those virtues, you have to. You have to. You have to. You have to approach it selflessly, and I know that's not a message that's very popular today. To be selfless, and it's not, and it's in many ways it's not natural. But I think if you want to really get the results that you want, you have to ask yourself what really matters. Me expressing how I feel today, me getting even, me whatever, or me putting in the effort that needs to be put in so I have the result that I want tomorrow. And I just decided from the beginning, I want good results from this. I want them to never be able to say, she didn't love us. Or, you know what I mean? And so I can't determine their behavior, but from my side, I wanted to bring certain things to the table. And it never fails. It never fails.
True.
And so there's been ups and downs, but I'm telling you, I look at my life today and I feel so blessed. And I think that's the tricky part is you have to not subscribe to stereotypes. and say, because I have a blended family, I'll never feel this way about my kids, or because I didn't birth them, we'll never have that kind of a bond, or I'll never really understand them. Don't subscribe to that. You know, I did for a long time. And it stopped me from giving my heart fully to them. And then and they're not the ones that reach out first. You know, as the parent, you have to be the bigger person. And so that was hard. But it brought some incredible fruit.
And even with your own little girl, who is just the cutest, but you had to wait a while for her. And that even in itself was a journey to walk in the other journey that you were walking. So how did you experience that, and did you ever think, like, I mean, what thoughts did you have? Did you ever think, maybe this is not for me? Maybe, you know, the instant mom is the only thing I'm going to be able to give that?
Yes. I had every emotion. You know, we were married for 7 years before we had Harley. And in the beginning of our marriage, because we came in as a blended family, we decided that, you know, he had said to me, even though he has 5 children, which means now I have 5 children, that he would never deny that for me personally, you know, between us. And so, but we decided in the beginning especially that, you know, until the kids are okay, until our family unit kind of, you know, settles and just we take care of them, that we're not going to have any of our own. And so that was the first 3 years. And then things settled and we were like, okay, it's time, you know, and we just felt a release. And nothing happened. And for 4 years. Now, we didn't know it would be 4 years, but, you know, after the first year, you're like, oh, you know, it takes some time. And then after the second year, you're kind of like, okay, what's going on here? You know? And then after the third year, you know, you start to honestly just, there's so many emotions. Anger. Not understanding. You're very aware of everyone who's pregnant and has children, and your best friend is effortlessly just falling pregnant and
4 times before she
you know, and it's like you can't help but celebrate that, because you love them, and it is a joy.
Oh, absolutely.
But it's like, seriously,
real emotion,
you know, and
it's in your face too.
It's incredibly in your face, and you're hopeful every month. And you're, you know, no, and after a while, I got angry, and then I went through this whole journey, and that almost took a year of just acceptance, to say, if my stepchildren are the only children I ever have, which I never dreamed would even be something I said, or that was part of my life, would I be okay with that? And quite honestly, I came to a place where I really was, and our relationships had grown and changed to the point where they are so much a joy to me and a pleasure. And, you know, I always say they may not be my kids through blood, but they are through sweat and tears, you know. And so, you know, there was this relationship formed, and I really came to peace and said, if this is my quiver, that is, these are my arrows, I'm okay. And ironically, when I did get pregnant, my husband knew before I did. He said, you're pregnant. I got upset with him. I said, you know, don't say that. That's not funny. I can't hope. I don't want to hope. I'm unwilling to even go down that road, because I've shut the door. And he said, you're pregnant. So 2 weeks later, you know, I stood up quickly the one day, and I got all lightheaded, and he was like, why don't you come sit down? And I looked at him and I said, if you even say to me right now that I am pregnant, you know, and he was like, we need to have this conversation. I was like, I'm going down to the store. I'm buying a pregnancy test, and I'm going to prove to you I am not pregnant. Well, lo and behold, I was pregnant. Now, you know, you can get a negative no, but you don't get a negative yes. And so I actually sat there and I said, would you mind just giving me a minute? Because he's standing there like, yeah, I knew it, you know, and I'm like,
wow.
I thought this would be the
Such
most,
a contrast.
I waited for this moment. I thought I would be overjoyed. I thought it would be happy, and all I felt, honestly, was anger. And I remember sitting there, and he graciously gave me a minute, and I just started crying and crying, and I said, God, seriously? Now? And then I felt awful, because I waited so long for that, you know, and you can't prepare your heart sometimes for the things you're going to go through. And I think that's the hard part is,
Mm.
you know, I was so aware of my reality when I couldn't, when I wasn't pregnant, and so aware of, you know, moms writing on Facebook how tired they were and how overwhelmed they were with their kids and how there's toys
True,
everywhere.
hey?
And I
Yes.
was like, oh, please,
Yes.
I would give anything to
Yeah.
have throw up all over my shirt right now because it would mean I had kids.
Yeah.
Then
Yeah.
when I get
Yeah.
pregnant, you know, I'm actually like
Right.
upset about it, you know, and
Yeah.
so it's a journey, it's a process, and now my
Wow.
reality is there are toys everywhere, and I am exhausted, but I think
Right.
it's given me an appreciation, to be honest,
Right.
because I waited so long and I gave up,
Mm.
and so now every time I want to just get so frustrated or I'm so exhausted,
Mm.
I remember
Yeah. Yeah.
how much I wanted
Yes.
this,
Yes.
and it helps.
Wow. Wow.
There's this very genuine thankfulness
Mm.
for who I have today, this
Right,
little one,
right,
you know, who's
yeah.
full of energy and sass.
And see, sass, like,
She turned 2, girl.
oh, okay, let's not go there.
listen. Yeah.
So, talking about a little bit that juggling in the practical sense of you being a wife, you
Mhm.
being a mom, you being a mom not just to one kid, but
Right.
to a pretty big family. You run a business, you're a coach, you travel all over the world
Yeah.
to speak and to share your gift with the world, not just your family. How, in the practical sense of moms being tired, exhausted, wanting to be there, but also be who they are called to be.
Yeah.
You know, some moms are good
Yeah.
with just raising a family, and some
Yeah.
are called for
Yeah.
different things.
I
How
felt
do you have some
guilty.
tips, some tricks for some moms that have different responsibilities?
Yeah, I thought, you know, in my culture that I was born and raised in, you know, with the Amish and the Mennonites, and you know, being a homemaker is kind of the assumption, or was. I'm sure it's changing a little bit, but
Sure.
with the times. And so when I had my little one, it's so all-consuming in the beginning. You know, with the stepchildren, they were a little older. I didn't have them through the infant toddler stages, and so the physical exhaustion wasn't there like it is after
Sure.
your postpartum and stuff. But
Sure.
the mental and emotional exhaustion was there. And I think that firstly, you need to stop feeling guilty about who you are. You know, maybe you're that mom who loves staying home and you feel guilty that you're not out helping provide or something like that. You know, don't. If that's who you are, if that's your passion and purpose, or even just your season.
That, yeah,
you know,
that's
take
a big
it.
one.
And
that's a big one.
I felt that way in the beginning, and then I was like, all right, you know, I'm ready to go do something. And then I felt guilty for that. Like, why isn't she enough for me?
Right.
You know, I'm not the super doting mom type.
Yes.
And I felt guilty about that. You know, my child is not my everything.
Yeah.
And I was like, is that wrong?
Did you just say that? Your child is not your everything?
I really did. It doesn't mean I don't love her.
Exactly.
You hear what I'm saying, but she truly is not my everything. Of course,
to be
first
honest,
my relationship
I
with
think
the Lord,
that's a big problem in the world in marriages today.
Yeah.
Because kids are the number one.
Yeah.
And then comes the husband and the relationship and the wife.
Yeah.
And there are different times and seasons where you can't go on a date night, maybe not even once a month, you know, and you're trying to just meet each other or connect in different ways. But especially, you know, out there, I mean, people are like, my kids are first, that's it, you know, and they're like put on a...
Look, I think you've got to work with your spouse or partner to establish what matters to each other, not just to you. And we work hard at that. And I mean work. It doesn't always come naturally.
Yeah.
And because we're two different people, and so I enjoy homey things. I enjoy, you know, my meals, or I enjoy, you know, baking bread, or I enjoy things around the house. And in the evenings, I enjoy just sitting with the kids or doing whatever. And he wants to go explore more, out more. And so you've got to find that balance of not just what matters to me, but what matters to him. And he thinks about what matters to me. You know, and so when you prefer each other, you can actually really find a lot of joy in the journey. And so, but I think you need to do that. And the kids, they need a healthy relationship to look at.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah,
when mom and dad are united, firstly, it cuts down on, you know, them getting away with stuff they shouldn't be getting away with.
Sure.
You know, but even
Absolutely.
more than that, it shows them authority. It shows them what a relationship looks like, you know, not necessarily arguing in front of them, but working through issues with them as they get older.
Yeah.
We don't do that with our 2-year-old, but we do with the
Sure.
teenagers.
Sure.
We sit and we talk about attitudes. We talk about finances. We talk about things. And, you know, I wasn't particularly raised in a family that was open with things.
Sure.
And I understand why my parents did that. But just, you know, finding your own way as you raise a family, but doing it together.
Yeah.
And I think that's what helps me juggle all of these things is, firstly, I'm not doing it alone, which is my tendency.
Yes.
You know, I thought that it's better on my own.
Yes.
I was super independent, still have that streak running, but I'm learning that together is better. It like it genuinely is. It's not just a cliche. We are better together. And so when I work on us, it helps me. It supports me. It brings me to peace because we are at peace. He is at peace. It's a more organic relationship with the kids. It's a healthier home environment, so they function better. They can feel stress.
Right.
You know, they feel when things aren't right, or when things aren't, you know, my 19-year-old son, he's this burly, bearded kid, and he can tell when I'm not having a great day. And he'll just come up and he'll be like, you know, and the kids call me MB, stands for Mama Beck, because we decided early on I'm not mom. That's okay. And that was another struggle. Will I ever have a child who calls me mom? And I called it the M word, you know, and so that was a whole nother thing. But just, you know, I'll say, MB, you need a hug, you know, and so they pick up on that, but just teaching them how to deal with other days, you know, we call them good days or other days, you know, but just how do you deal with that, you know, and it doesn't give you the right, because you're tired or exhausted or whatever, to just, you know, shoot off your mouth at people or treat them however you want. And if you need to take that time for yourself, take it. It's good for the whole, you know, and don't feel guilty about that.
Right. So as a coach, you help people figure things out in life, who they are, and how to achieve their dreams, their goals. So, and to be successful in that. So what would your definition of success be?
Wow, that's a great question.
What does success mean to you?
You know, I think again, if you asked me this 10 years ago, there would have been some similar answers, but I think, honestly, I've come to value peace. And happiness, laughter, joy, you know, the deep kind, not the kind that comes from circumstances or, you know, experiences, but the deep inner joy, inner peace, and that means a lot to me.
Wow.
And I've rubbed shoulders with very successful people and watched them, and you know, I follow successful people. I want to learn from them. And you see these people who have crazy success, and they end up, you know, taking their own lives or in broken relationships. And so, you know, it's a great question, and I just think that we should never compromise for money. That's one of the first questions we ask in coaching is, if money was not an issue, what would you do with your life? And it's crazy how people literally gear their lives around the need for money. Not around money, around the need for money. And so, you know, for my husband
they probably
and
never
I,
even thought of that, because everything just evolves around
and you grow
that.
up in a system, you know, where you do certain things to have a certain life, and it's just normal, so you don't question it. You know, but having lived in different places around the world and confronted with other cultures, you realize your way isn't just a normal way, you know, or what is normal in your life. And so you question things where if you live in the place you always lived in, you know, these things, you sometimes you just never even question them. And so I think that, you know, peace and joy are huge. I want financial freedom. Financial stress is one of the greatest causes of divorce, of broken relationships. Money is not a good leader. It is not a good leader. It's a good follower. It's not a good leader. And so, having that financial freedom is for me, and that means different things.
Yeah,
I'm not putting a number on that, but just where I can bless, I can give. If I see a need, I don't have to be like, oh, there's nothing I can do. I hope someone else steps in. I can give. Or just not having that struggle. I think having lived on the mission field, and you know this, and at one point in my life, my husband and I were homeless. We were carless. We couldn't afford a lot. We lost a lot of weight, literally, from just eating. Well, we've been there, and the struggle is real.
Yeah, it is real.
And I can't say all of that was negative, because in serving God, all things work together for the good. And so in some ways I can honestly say I wouldn't change that. It shaped me, it built me, it challenged me.
Because that's not the only thing. So many other things are added to your life.
Yes.
And that you would never be that person
if
it wasn't for that journey.
Exactly. So I don't despise it or regret it.
Sure.
But I also don't want to stay there.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
That's not my season anymore.
Yes. Amen.
And so, to me, success is just having those freedoms, that my heart is free, that my mind is free. I'm not walking with regret. It's a huge one for me. I decided, because I grew up a people pleaser, and when I realized that was something that I really struggled with and that held me back, I said, I don't want to live with regrets.
Yeah.
Even if it means, standing up for what I believe in, or saying no.
Yeah.
Heaven forbid I use that word,
Right.
And just drawing some lines and boundaries in my life. Not telling other people what they have to do, but saying, as for me and my house, this is where we're at with my friendships, with my relationships, in business, and so that's really helped me a lot. To me, that's success. Is having taking charge of your life and your family, and saying, as for me and my house, and so it's an evolution.
I love that.
But that's where I'm at right now, and I'm very happy. My husband and I were just talking. We're not where we want to be fully, but we're just so happy. And so it's a good place to be.
And it's evident, as you walk that journey.
There's less stress, and my life was always full of busyness. And even stress. And so this place of just, confidence in the being, not just in the doing, is new for me. In the last 10 years, and unbelievably refreshing. And I don't even want to go back to where I was.
Right. So what are you grateful for most recently?
Most recently, well, firstly, my garden. I feel like my grandmother.
Like that. Yes.
Honestly, it's the little things.
Wow.
I've lived a big life, and I know that I've had the privilege of doing a lot of things that aren't normal. Maybe I've lived on 3 continents. I've been able to serve on the mission field. I lived in South Africa for 7 years. I lived in Europe for a year and a half, and life has been very, very full of change and challenge and growth. And so for me, honestly, right now, it's enjoying the little things. Being at home, sitting in my garden, working in the garden. I've been up the last mornings before the sun is really hot, and working in the garden, and it's been amazing. I've loved it. And so just that kind of
can be therapeutic.
Things.
I never thought I would say that either.
Girl,
and I am
neither.
not. I have no green thumb, and I am not a garden person at all. But it makes you feel accomplished. And it's therapeutic. Like you're just focusing on that.
I'm not growing anything. Mind you, these are like cacti.
No, just weeding.
They're like low maintenance.
And taking care that it looks decent.
If I kill a cactus, I've got an issue. Haven't gotten there yet, but just the little things. Just spending time with the family, doing things with my husband. Just going for an afternoon out, or just like feeling honestly and utterly at peace with myself and with the world. It's an amazing feeling, and I know I'm on the threshold of another season change, and so that's a little scary, and a lot of new things are right on the brink. And so more than ever, I want to just take this time and enjoy those little things, because I don't take them for granted anymore.
Sure. So you've shared a lot about your journey and the processes you've been through. Even though we are just at the beginning of life, what would your note to self be to your younger self? What would you tell her or give her advice of the things that you have walked through already looking back? What would you tell her?
Honestly, stop taking yourself so seriously.
Very.
I put so much, and still can, but I put so much pressure on myself to get it all right. To be perfect, or at least have the appearance of perfection, or never get angry, never get frustrated, never say no, do everything, make everyone happy. And there are parts of that genuinely I love facilitating. I love hosting. I love throwing parties. I love that kind of thing. So that's genuine. But I was doing it out of a need for approval instead of just organically being who I am.
Yes.
And so I would definitely tell myself to just chill and not take myself so
like
seriously.
I probably would
and I would tell myself to not be afraid to mess up, because I lived paralyzed by fear, the fear of failure and the fear of rejection. It literally just stopped me from growing, from trying things. And once I realized, and I honestly think I'm still learning this on deeper levels, but that failure isn't failure unless you refuse to get up again. Kind of letting that sink in on a whole new level, and saying, if I mess up or if I don't get it right, it's not a failure if I can learn from it, pick myself up, and go at it again. And in fact, it gives me something to relate to people on. Goodness, if I succeeded at everything, what on earth would I have in common with humanity? Because we all fail. We don't all get it right the first time. And so I think I just give myself one giant, huge chill pill, and just say, go smell the flowers, girl. Just calm down.
Yes. Wow. Well, first of all, I want to say thank you that you wanted to do this, that you've been so open in sharing your struggles, your positive things, your joys. And I've watched you, and I can honestly say that the way you have carried yourself and the way you kept showing up, thank you for that. That has been a big inspiration in my life, and I know for many other people that have known you and have watched you, for not giving up when you had every reason to. So thank you for that. Thank you for coming on my show.
I love it. I'm proud of you.
Now, one more last thing. Imagine that you have 1 minute.
Yes.
60 seconds where everybody is listening to you, to what you have to say. What would you tell people out there? What would your message be?
My message would be that your life is current. You're not at an end, and nothing is impossible unless you say so. There's that quote by Henry Ford: whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. And I would tell you today that whatever you think, you're right. So know that this is a new beginning. I would say you are purposed, you matter, and you are going to make it. The biggest moment in my life was where I honestly didn't know if I would make it. Like, I had faith somewhere-ish, because I knew I had to have faith, but I didn't honestly, truly, deep down believe it. And so I would say, you are going to make it. You matter, and your past does not determine your future.
What's that song? You're gonna make it.
Girl, you're gonna make it. You're gonna make it after all. How do I know? He told me so. That's it.
That's good.
I just sing it. I just put it on a loop,
And sing it to yourself.
Girl, I have sung it to myself.
In that mirror. Oh, listen,
girl.
All right, that's it, folks. I encourage you to go check her out, Rebecca Faith. You can find her on Instagram, on Facebook, and go give her some love. Give her a like, a follow, subscribe.
Yeah,
you're on YouTube,
I'm on YouTube
too. There we go. Social media all around.
Yes,
I will put the link also in the show notes. And I just thank you so much for tuning in, for joining us, and don't forget to share, like, subscribe.
Give her some love.
We will see you next time from sunny California.
Bye.
Bye.